We're going to start reading a short story called Flowers for Algernon this week, and I wanted to talk about some of the vocabulary words, the literary terms that go along with this story. So you're going to be filling these out in your glossary along with me. So you'll fill in the definition and then any notes that I have as well. Some of them you'll be copy pasting whole slides into your glossary, and I'll let you know when it's time to do that. So you can pause the video whenever it's time for you to copy things down, or you can do split screen and kind of copy along with me. So a character is a word that I'm sure, we're all very familiar with, but one thing we might not have thought about is what makes a character. So what determines whether a person or a being in a work of literature is a character or not. So, I think we can all agree that Moana is a character. She's a human. She, acts in a way that moves the story. She's a huge part of the story. She's obviously a character. But when we look at characters, or I guess beings like Heihei and Te and the ocean in Moana, it gets a little bit harder to figure out. So, Heihei reacts to Moana. He helps her at the end of the movie whenever he grabs the heart. Te expresses emotions. The ocean helps. The ocean interacts with Moana as well. So, yeah, I would call each of those characters. On your notes side, here are 3 rules for determining what is and is not a character. So a character must interact with others or the world. A character has to choose to act, and a character has to express emotions. So if I think about the ocean in maybe like a book where a character is lost at sea, there the ocean is just a setting. So the ocean isn't interacting with the character at all. It's not choosing to act in any way. Where the ocean in Moana has emotions. Here it's curious and it interacts with Moana. It helps her by blocking Te and putting her back on the boat. And it consciously chooses things. It picks a side and battles between Moana and Maui. So the ocean is certainly a character here. You can see it even tousling her hair. So yeah, I would call each of those a character. Genre is another word that we're going to apply to Flowers for Algernon, and the word genre is a word for a type of literature. So it's kind of like if you think about going to a bookstore, it's like the section of the bookstore you would go into or the section of the library that you would go to. So do you want to read a mystery or historical fiction or a fairy tale or science fiction, fantasy? So those are different types of literature, and we call those genres. So they will share a common set of characteristics. All science fiction stories, roughly have the same sort of structure, themes, and traits. And that makes it so, readers can gravitate toward a particular type. Science fiction is a genre, so it's an example of a genre. And it involves science and technology. And then on your notes side, you have examples and notes. So examples are Flowers for Algernon, which is a story that we are going to be reading this week and next week. WALL-E, Star Wars. Each of those is a science fiction story. A note about sci-fi, it often kind of warns about the dangers of technology advancing past us, so progressing too far. If you think about WALL-E, their scientific progress had advanced to the point that their entire Earth was covered in trash. So that's not great. And then whenever they got on the spaceship, they had so much stuff done for them that they had gotten fat and they had lost all of their muscle tone and weren't even able to take care of themselves anymore. So that's a pretty trademark trait of science fiction, where it warns that if we continue down this path, this is what our life could look like. Epistolary story is a genre as well. It's also kind of a format. So this is a story that's written in the form of a series of letters. So if a character is telling their entire story through diary entries, we'll read the Diary of Anne Frank, and that's kind of like an epistolary story. Frankenstein is an epistolary story. It's told through letters. And Flowers for Algernon, the book that we will be reading, is an epistolary story, except it's not told in letters, but it's told in progress reports. So our character is undergoing a scientific experiment, and he has to write his progress reports down to let the scientist know how he's doing. So the entire story is told through his point of view in these like scientific progress reports.